How's it going, everybody? I'm the BTC Reaper, and my goal in this channel is to teach you how to reap the rewards of trading, whether price is going up or down. Binance US says crypto deposits are no longer FDIC insured. An email sent to users today and seen by Decrypt announced that Binance has updated the deposit insurance language to say that it is no longer insured by the FDIC. The firm first announced that Binance US accounts were insured up to $250,000 in 2019 in a now deleted blog post. All USD deposits are held in pooled custodial accounts at multiple banks that are insured by the FDIC, the post read at the time. The update also indicates that users will no longer be able to withdraw US dollars without first converting them into stablecoins or another cryptocurrency. FTX plans to return about 90% of customer funds, but there's a catch. So the debtors propose dividing missing customer assets into 3 pools based on circumstances at the start of the Chapter 11 case. Those for FTX.com, those for FTX US customers, and a general pool of other assets. The proposal stated that customers with a preference statement amount that is less than $250,000 can accept the settlement without any reduction. Preference settlement is 15% of customer withdrawals on the exchange 9 days before it went under. Creditors would further receive a shortfall claim against a general pool corresponding to the estimated value of the assets missing at their exchange. So you'll get about 15%, and the rest you get from a general pool, so we'll have to kind of see how that all works out. It is yet to be approved, by the way. Ethereum staking is losing its appeal. Here's why. The queue for adding new staking validators on Ethereum briefly hit zero yesterday. It's now risen to 996 validators, but that's still a far cry from its peak at June 10th with 96,500 validators. Importantly, the reward has dropped from 5.2% to 3.5%. So there's less incentive to do it, but also if you look at the level of miners before the whole Chappella update, we are pretty close to the level of people. You can see we were around here. That was like the peak. That was when Chappella was activated. But before that, there was not very much demand in Ethereum mining, and we're pretty much back to those levels. Bitcoin miner using Paraguay dam to power its new facility. I'm not even going to try and say that. Bitcoin mining company SAS Mining has opened its newest 100% renewable energy facility in Paraguay. The company operates customer-owned Bitcoin mining rigs on their behalf, with them taking a 15% commission for the service. So you don't have to pay them for the energy, but you do pay them a 15% for them maintaining your machines. SAS Mining President Ken Holberton told Decrypt that due to the Paraguay's unique hydropower generating dynamics, it was selling 5 gigawatts of power at a loss to its neighbor Brazil. That's why local authorities and communities embrace the company's presence, tapping into the dam and buying their surplus power instead of Paraguay exporting it as a loss turns the headwind that Paraguay previously had on their GDP into a tailwind, so it's a big win for them. Over on the charts, we are bouncing down toward our support level. We did break our first EMA, so just watch for a full breakdown. If we do come down, break this other EMA, and break our support, that is where we are likely going to see a pretty strong move to the downside. RSI is going pretty flat here. Our stochastic does have a bearish cross. We have a red dot on that momentum, so the momentum wants to pull under as our VWAP is in the bearish territory. If that VWAP continues down, our momentum is going to continue under, and our money flow will continue to pull away from us. Over on total, we are getting a rejection of our Fibonacci level, so the scam wick may be filling to the downside. This is almost a long upper shadow candle. RSI is heading down, stochastic starting to round away, our VWAP is starting to come out, money flow is rejecting that bullish cross, and our momentum is coming down because our VWAP is coming down as well. So if our VWAP continues down and breaks bearish, our momentum is going to keep coming out, and our money flow is going to keep heading down toward the bearish territory, and we'll see continual downside where we could fill to about this 252 level. Over on Bitcoin dominance, we are trying to break above this wedge, so that is positive for us. But I would wait for confirmation. We could just be trying to fill this gap. Could also move it to here. We do have some support resistance up here. So if we were to get a rejection from here, that could confirm this as a resistance area, and we could see further downside. You would have to keep an eye on that, but this is just dominance. So this is just the buying and selling of Bitcoin. It doesn't necessarily mean Bitcoin will go up, because you can see dominance is up half a point. Bitcoin is almost down half a point. RSI is starting to roll over. Momentum's starting to come out. Our stochastic does want to push forward. Our money flow is making a bounce off that neutral. VWAP's coming up, but the VWAP's starting to roll away. So if this VWAP continues to roll away and the RSI and stochastic continue to weaken here, we have bearish divergence on our stochastic as we're getting lower highs on our stochastic with higher highs on our price. If that continues and matches in the momentum, we could see a pretty strong move to the downside. Over on Bitcoin futures, we did get decent freak break up, but it's really not going anywhere. Not going to quite move this line. We do have like wicks back here that show that was a resistance. We have wicks here that show it's a support area. So we are kind of forming a support resistance area here. If we start going flat here, we could still see some sort of bearish action take over. We are in a slight up channel, which up channels are bearish patterns, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to break down. Our RSI is heading up, but it is starting to roll over, even though our stochastic is getting strength. That stochastic just managed to cross over that like 30 zone and give us some bullish strength. So if it does not continue, this RSI is going to continue down, and that will help bring price action down. That VWAP is heading toward the neutral. Our money flow is starting to round away. That momentum is getting lower highs, making divergence as price is trying to make higher highs while momentum's making lower highs. So that's a bearish divergence. Over on Bitcoin, we are starting to kind of pull away. Kind of like I mentioned, we did get bounced near our point of control. It's very important to watch what the next candle does. This is a hammer candle. When these hammer candles appear at the top like this, that usually shows that we will have a rollover and a push to the downside. But that doesn't necessarily always have to happen, even if we get a big red candle tomorrow. What we would be looking for is a red candle about the size of this green candle without a long lower shadow wick. If it has a long lower shadow wick, then it could help propel us back up, kind of like back here. VWAP is trying to head up, momentum's trying to come up, that money flow is trying to cross that bullish territory, but that RSI's got a red dot signaling that it's about to get exhausted and head down. As stochastic is running up, but we're getting bearish divergence on it, and we're getting bearish divergence on momentum as well. Over on the 4-hour, we are trying to make some sort of a goofy, might be a rising triangle here. That could try to push this support resistance area, at which point, if that does happen, it does look like we could reject, as money flow is going bearish, momentum's coming out, stochastic's crashing down, RSI is coming down with a red dot, that VWAP's coming down, so our long term and our medium term are in the bearish territory, and it doesn't look like we could push up too strongly unless this VWAP is able to cross through and maintain strong bullish action in the lower time frames. Right now, if you look, we were kind of zigzagging with green money flow. That was helping bring price up. But when you zigzag with red money flow, that brings your price down. So just watch out for that. Over on the 2-hour, RSI is starting to head out. Momentum's coming down. It keeps flashing green and red, so it looks like a Christmas light show and doesn't know what it wants to do. As stochastic's pretty beat down, money flow is starting to round away. That VWAP is testing that neutral. If it goes bearish and continues to zigzag down while that momentum continues to come out, then our money flow could flip bearish and bring us lower. However, if this momentum maintains in this bullish territory and our money flow maintains in this bullish territory while this VWAP keeps zigzagging around, we could go bullish, but we're going to need more peaks to the bullish side. Right now, we're favoring the bearish side. Over on the 1 hour, this could be a rising triangle that could try to break us up to that resistance area that's a little clearer to see. RSI is starting to head down. Our stochastics overall pushing out. We're getting a push out on momentum. We're making divergences here as we're getting higher price and these indicators are going lower. Our VWAP is zigzagging around while our money flow maintains that bullish momentum. So we could continue to zigzag around and try to inch up, try to hit that resistance, at which point if our VWAP makes a strong break to the bearish side and our other indicators start indicating bearish action, we could get a sharp rejection. Over on graph for the daily, we are getting a pretty strong red candle. It could be followed by some retracement. That doesn't necessarily have to happen. Back here we did get some retracement, but we had several big red candles before that retracement. So you're going to have to watch these indicators very closely on the lower time frames. Our money flow that's coming down toward our neutral wants to break bearish. VWAP starting to break toward the bearish side. So both these things fall flat, break bearish here. That could start to bring price action down. And we'll see that price movement to around that 6.5 cent zone for our flag, like we have been warning about. So we're trying to push away from that double bottom possibility here. This would be an invalidation of that move. Our momentum does want to roll over, so overall the daily is not looking very strong, but watch for some strength to come back in lower time frames. If that happens, we could snap back up. We have a manipulation X here on the 4 hour that did bring us down. We're going kind of flat here with the bearish sell-off. So it is possible the bulls could step in, try to bring us back up, try to retest this 8.2 cent zone. If we do break above that zone, we could see continued price action up and invalidate the bear flag. But if we come up and reject, then it is very likely we'll see lower price action. We are also getting hung up right around this support area that we drew from this range. So we are using that area again. That's why I did not get rid of it, because I wanted to show you how previous supports can come into play. RSI is starting to head out. Our stochastic is starting to come down. Money flow is rejecting that neutral. Our VWAP does want to go bullish, but our momentum's coming down. If that VWAP does not manage to sustain strong bullish strength, like get above, let's say this 3, or even the 7, if we get rejected by these two zones and our VWAP pulls under for a lower high, then it is very likely we'll continue the bearish action. However, if our VWAP does make a new high, we could try to make a bullish trend and push forward. Our money flow is overall rejecting, so our bearish trends are on that medium and long term right here with that VWAP and the money flow, respectively. Over on the 2 hour, we are trying to make a bear flag here under our support area. If we make a little mini flag here, that could be confirmation of further pushes to the downside. This could also be a bit of a head and shoulders, shoulder, head with a little bit higher peak, shoulder with a lower kind of slanted, and then a push down. RSI is starting to head out. Stochastic does want to run up. Our money flow is starting to come out. Our VWAP's pushing above that neutral, and our momentum's getting a double green dot as a result. Again, if this money flow does not break above this floor and we see a lower high here, we will see continued bearish action. However, if our VWAP's able to make a new high and our money flow makes a bounce and we start to see that zigzag, we'll get that bullish zigzag and a push forward. Over on the 1 hour, stochastic is trying to head up. RSI is pretty flat. Our VWAP is starting to come down. Our money flows overall in a bearish trend, so we're not looking the greatest here. The momentum does want to come up, because our VWAP is trying to maintain bullish strength, but we're getting hung up around this 10 zone. If we're not able to break above this 10 zone and maintain some bullish strength here, it's very likely this money flow will maintain in the bearish territory. So if we zigzag around with the red money flow and that carries over to our other time frames, we're going to see price action start to decline from that. Over on Anchor, we have a long lower shadow candle here, so this could be a bullish move for us. But it could also be a hammer candle that gives us a rounding top and drops us down. So it's a kind of dicey toss right now. Could play out like this, or it could pump us up, as a long lower shadow candle typically shows that buyers tried to push us, or sellers tried to push us down, and the buyers managed to push us back up. We are pretty weak for the bullish side. We did just cling on to the bullish territory, so it's very important to see what tomorrow's candle brings. If tomorrow's candle closes green, we could see continued price action up, try to break these EMAs, and try to make a new support zone. However, if we see a red candle, it's very likely we're going to push to our support of our flag, and we could see that flag finally start to play out and bring us lower. Our next range would likely be around this value area low or around this 2.5 cent zone. That would be probably where we would break up to if we were able to get some sustained green candles from here. But if we start seeing those red candles, we're likely going to start to push down, fill this gap, and possibly fill even lower. We do have a bigger candle wick, but we don't necessarily have to fill all of the wick, as we have filled half of it already. Over on the 4 hour, we are getting a pretty strong push up, trying to retrace all the losses. We are trying to continue above these higher EMAs, so this is a very good move for us. We do have a pretty strong rounding bottom here. RSI is trying to head up, as stochastic's trying to continue forward. That VWAP is in the bullish territory. It's kind of weak though, so watch if it makes a lower high. If our VWAP makes a lower high here, we could just have some sort of really goofy double top that could drop us down. That stochastic doesn't want to run up, but if it rejects around that 30, that RSI is likely going to lose some strength and start to cool down here. Over on the 2 hour, our VWAP is trying to run up, our stochastic's trying to run up, our money flow is maintaining bullish strength, RSI is running up, so we do look pretty strong here. The momentum is pushing with a green dot, but the VWAP is in a bit of a high spot where we've rejected from every time we've met it. So back here, when we rejected, we got a pretty decent push down. Back here when we rejected, we went flat. Back here when we rejected, we went flat. The main difference is how our money flow was. So our money flow was real low here. So we were trying to cling to that bullish territory. That VWAP was dipping. We were kind of zigzagging around. We pulled out bearish territory. So we were trying to make a bullish trend and then managed to sustain. Here we could do the inverse, as we've had a bullish trend and we're starting to come down toward a bearish trend. So I would keep a close eye on this. Over on the 1 hour, the stochastic is starting to round away. RSI does want to continue forward, and our VWAP is running up pretty decently. So if the VWAP can continue this bullish action here on the 1 hour, that could help pull our money flow up. If both those things cross into the bullish territory, we could see continual price action up like we did back here. However, if our money flow gets a rejection and our VWAP rejects, is pretty high. It did reject the last time it was this high and pushed down significantly. So if it does reject from here, we are likely going to see lower price action. Over on XRP for the daily, we are trying to make a bearish engulfing candle. Don't quite have one though. We are trying to bounce off this EMA. That could be a bullish sign. If we bounce off this EMA and we get a green candle tomorrow, we could try to break this support zone, at which we'll try to move toward our point of control and try to break our higher area. We could get one candle that tries to do it all in one swing again, at which point then we have our 57 cent, almost 57 and a half as our next resistance area. Otherwise, we do have that value area high way up around 71 cents yet. Our momentum does want to come up, but our VWAP is starting to lose some strength here, and the money flow is starting to pull away. If this money flow continues in this bearish territory, and that VWAP continues to zigzag, again, we'll probably see price action overall inch out and push down. Over on the 4-hour, stochastics rounding out pretty decent. RSI is coming out. Momentum is getting a pretty decent push, so we're making some bearish divergences. Price is pretty flat here, so for momentum to make lower highs and stochastic to make lower highs, that could be an indication that we could start to push away. Our money flow is starting to reject away from that neutral. Our VWAP does want to push that neutral to the bullish side though, so if that VWAP can cross bullish and sustain, that may give the money flow the momentum it needs to round back up, as our VWAP's medium and money flow is more long term. Over on the 2-hour, we're going to zoom in here. We are meeting some resistance by a higher EMA, and we are rejecting away our lower EMAs. If we break this other higher EMA here, this is one just below the red one, then we could push down and get a rejection away from this zone. This could be like some goofy head and shoulders with like a shorter shoulder. If that's the case, then that could push us down to around the support zone, right around this 48 cent area. Our stochastic is starting to round away. RSI is starting to round away. That VWAP is starting to come down. The money flow is struggling to maintain a bullish momentum. If this money flow crosses bearish and that VWAP crosses bearish, is very likely we'll get a pretty decent move to the downside. Over on the 1-hour, we do have a manipulation X, but we're trying to get a green candle to invalidate the possibility of a drop to the downside. If we can get a green candle, cross over these EMAs and hold, then we could break through our other higher EMAs and continue a trend to try to break higher EMAs and snap back to that 50 cent zone. However, if we start to see red candles and see this manipulation X confirm in the next candle or two, then it is very likely we'll start to stair step back down. Stochastic's starting to head away, RSI is starting to go flat, momentum starting to push under with a red dot as our VWAP's going bearish. If this money flow crosses bearish and that VWAP maintains bearish strength, it is very likely we'll get a pretty significant move down. Over on Algo for the daily, we're getting a pretty decent push down here. I'm actually going to move this support in this case because I prefer candle bodies over candle wicks. That's just my trading style. RSI is coming down. Our stochastic's starting to come down. Money flow starting to come out. VWAP's starting to come down. Momentum's starting to come down with a red dot. So overall, we are starting to see a push to the downside that could be followed by a pretty significant rejection. If tomorrow's candle is red, I don't believe there's very much volume. It's very hard to see here. We do have very little volume here. The bars are very faint. I'll have to fix that. If you do want to fix that, you can find where your bars are. I forget. I believe they're here. And change your opacity to like 70%. So now you can see those bars a little more clearly. If we continue to push down, there is not very much below us for any kind of support for our volume profile. So we did reject the value area low, and we could see a significant push to the downside. RSI is starting to come down, stochastic's starting to come out. Gonna have to mess with that because now I don't like how price comes. So if you want to move that, you can go visual order, bring to front. RSI is starting to head down, stochastic starting to push out, that money flow is starting to come down, VWAP's rejecting, our momentum has a red dot. So overall, if we see a red candle tomorrow, we will see continual price action down, a rejection of this flag, and see probably around that 7.5 cent zone, or at the least that 8 cent zone, maybe 8.2 cent at best. Over on the 4 hour, we are trying to bounce above and break through our resistance that we just kind of moved. If we are not able to break above and we start a rejection here, we could see that significant move down. RSI is coming out, stochastic's coming down, our money flow is pushing out. That VWAP does want to break that neutral, so if our VWAP can break through, that could help push us bullish, but we're going to need a new high. If that VWAP can make a new high, that may start to pull our money flow back up and try to cross bullish. Until that money flow gets bullish, it's going to be hard to sustain a bullish trend. Momentum does want to round up as our VWAP's trying to cross, so that is good. We do have some indications we want to make a bounce, so I would watch closely. The 2 hour, we are kind of forming a flag here. If we continue to form a flag, it's very likely we'll see a price drop. RSI is trying to head up, stochastic's trying to run up, our VWAP is trying to push up, that money flow wants to cross that neutral, the momentum has a double green dot, so we do want to continue forward. If we're able to break through and reject away, we would need to touch like this higher EMA. That could make some sort of cup and then possibly a handle to try to push us up, or we could try to make an inverted head and shoulders. This is our shoulder, head come up, reject, shoulder, and then try to push forward and through this resistance area. That would be our most bullish case, but I would watch for that bear flag forming. Over on the 1 hour, our stochastic is running up pretty strong. RSI is trying to head up. That VWAP is trying to make a bounce off that neutral and sustain bullish momentum. If that can happen, this money flow may start a bullish trend and try to break through as well. If both those things happen, we will see price action move up and try to see some sort of bullish pattern play out. Our momentum does want to come up, so we are looking pretty decent. We did drop pretty significantly, so we could come up, retrace some of those losses, and then see it push away as well. Thank you for watching tonight's video. I hope you have a wonderful night.